Hey, folks, Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to the Watchman Newscast live stream. And as we head into the weekend, the Iranian regime has some decisions to make. I mean, decisions that could impact the very survival of that very wicked regime, which has had its jackboot on the necks of the Iranian people, first and foremost, for 46 years, while also, of course, causing havoc in the Middle East, throughout the world. And oh, yeah, me speaking just as an American, they've got loads of American blood on their hands, too. Well, now we have arrived finally at the moment of reckoning for Iran's nuclear program and, by extension, the Iranian regime. Now, some have compared Iran's race for the bomb to the Cuban Missile Crisis in slow motion. I think that's a very fitting description. Then all of a sudden, and it continued to go in slow motion, and it was a game of like cat and mouse with the Ayatollahs and the world and the Western, weak, by the way, Western powers who wanted nothing more than to cave and to appease Iran's mullahs, and who really, they'd rather not Iran get the bomb, of course, but who said, if they get the bomb, we can live with it. They can be contained, and they won't really use nuclear weapons. They just want it for leverage. They won't really use it, though. Au contraire, because their ideology, the ideology of Iran's regime, which is an apocalyptic jihadist ideology based on end times Shia theology and eschatology, that ideology demands that if Iran was to acquire the world's deadliest weapons, that they would use them not only against the little Satan, that's their words, not mine, Israel, but the nation they regard as the great Satan, where I'm sitting right now, the United States. The first rule of war, Sun Tzu, know your enemy. And the problem with Western decision makers over the years has been they can't wrap their heads around the fact that there are forces, especially in the Middle East, jihadist forces who are true believers. They really mean what they say, and they really believe in the fanatical ideology that they espouse. If you didn't think so, look no further than October 7th, 2023, when Hamas jihadists were in ecstasy, gleefully shouting Allahu Akbar and offering prayers as they beheaded people and burnt them to a crisp. This is evil. And the secular Western mind can no longer, it seems, comprehend evil and what it is and how to defeat it. But Donald Trump does. And when he came along on January 20th, once again, it rocked the Iranian regime's world. And look, it was already rocked after the past few months. And you know the rundown, folks, just to reiterate it real quick. Iran's ring of fire. I mean, it spent decades building up these proxies. Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, the militias in Iraq, the Assad regime in Syria. All that blood, toil, and treasure. And then in the span of a few months, Israel pretty much single-handedly has smashed that ring of fire and turned it into a smoldering heap of ruins. That's number one. That has thrown Iran's entire strategy for the region into a tailspin. Again, decades were devoted to building the ring of fire. And they said, okay, Israel's tiny. It's the size of the state of New Jersey. We'll surround it on all sides, and we'll unleash rockets, missiles, drones, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, perhaps even, all at once, from all sides. And then we'll also invade on the ground, like you saw on October 7th, all at once, from all sides, all of the proxies, the entire ring of fire ignites simultaneously. Here's the problem. Hamas moved too soon. Thank God that it didn't happen simultaneously. Hamas went first, and the rest is history. Now Hamas is in its death throes. Hezbollah is weakened severely. The Houthis are about to really get squeezed badly. The Iraqi militias are backing off. And the Assad regime in Syria collapsed Iran and Hezbollah have essentially been kicked out of Syria, and Assad is living in exile in Moscow right now. That's number one. Number two, on October 26th, in a counterattack, keyword there, counterattack, a response to an earlier Iranian attack against Israel on October 1st. On October 26th, Israel destroyed Iran's air defense systems. So all of that happened in the fall, which left Iran, literally, Iran's regime, limping into the winter of 2025, limping into the new year, more vulnerable than they have been since the 1980s, since the Iran-Iraq War. I mean, endangered, imperiled. They limp into the new year, and then along comes Donald Trump, the wrecking ball. And he says, guess what? Maximum pressure is back. What I did to you in my first term, when I squeezed you, Iran, economically, and you were on the ropes, you had no money. And when we eliminated Qasem Soleimani, the terror master, when we pulled out of that disastrous Iran nuclear deal, when we designated Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps as a terrorist organization, we recognized Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights. We moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. We inked the Abraham Accords between Israel and its Arab neighbors. And in our spare time, we crushed the ISIS caliphate and eliminated the leader of ISIS. That's what happened in the Middle East during President Trump's first term. And when he took office on January 20th, the Iranian regime's world again was rocked. Because just this week, he signed an executive order declaring maximum pressure's back. Now what does Iran do? Again, never more vulnerable. Which brings us back, not only their nuclear program, folks, their very existence as a regime, as the ruling force in Iran. They're in serious trouble. And Trump is about to tighten the noose. So what do they do? What do you think? We've got a great educated audience of watchmen and women on the wall here on the channel, of course. What do you think of this? What's Iran going to do? What can Iran do? Will this go the I'm going to break down the options in a minute. Will this go the diplomatic route? Is there no other means to an end here than military action by either Israel, the U.S., or both working in tandem? Where is this heading? What can Iran do, if anything, to get out of this bind it finds itself in? By the way, a self-imposed dilemma. They brought it on themselves by engaging in evil and wickedness and depravity for decades. They've brought this on themselves. This is biblical justice. It's Haman being hung on the gallows that he meant for Mordecai, which, by the way, ironically enough, that whole story, the story of Esther, went down in ancient Persia, which is modern-day Iran. How on earth is it possible for the Iranian regime to get out of this? Prophetically, we know Iran will be involved in that Gog-Magog invasion laid out in the book of Ezekiel, chapters 38 and 39. Doesn't mean it's the current regime, and it doesn't mean that the Iranian force that takes part in that latter days invasion of Israel is at full strength. They could be a junior partner in that confederation, along with big dogs like Russia and Turkey. But this is coming to a head. This 2025 is the year of reckoning. And I believe by the time this year's out, we'll know, okay, is Iran a nuclear power, or was Iran prevented from being a nuclear power? I want to break down what Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, said just today about that. And folks, look, he's vulnerable, but he's not budging. And he's defiant, as you'll hear in a minute. Real quick before we dig into it, a reminder to subscribe as we're in this new year. Well, not so new anymore. We're in getting deep into February already. But 2025, I think, is going to be a year of reckoning on many fronts, including Iran. Gaza, of course, we've discussed that all this week. The Abraham Accords back on the table, potential normalization between Israel and Saudi Arabia. So you want to keep it right here throughout this year, because we're going to have breaking news current events updates for you from the world's most strategic region, most prophetic region, the Middle East, Israel, and how it affects you no matter where you live around the world. And we've got viewers from the four corners of the globe here. So make sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you get alerts every time a new video is posted. By the way, you can subscribe absolutely free. And also, if you want to go a little deeper with us, if you're one of our regular viewers, you can become a premium member here on the channel, which is really cool. And it helps keep us afloat. We're plugging away here, doing a bunch of different things. The YouTube channel, the Stackscast podcast, the nightly TV show on TBN. It's called Stakelbeck Tonight, every weeknight, Monday through Friday on TBN, 7:30 p.m. Eastern with a re-air at 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. So we've got three legs to what we do, far beyond just the YouTube channel, which has over 1 million subscribers. I say all that to say it ain't free, unfortunately, for us. It costs money to produce all of this content for such a time as this. So premium membership just kind of helps us stay afloat and helps support the channel, of course, and blesses us. And also, as we hope to bless you with this information. And also, you get the podcast, the Stackscast, and exclusive live streams for premium members. We're going to do one this Wednesday. Let's see, that's February 12th. Coming up this Wednesday, February 12th, I believe we will roll at 4 p.m. Central Time for premium members, and this will be Q&A. Me and you asking me your questions. Ask me anything, and I'll break it down for you in this special premium member live stream. So if you want to be a premium member, just go to join here on the homepage. You can check that out. I think it's $4.99 a month to be a premium member. Pretty good deal, and you can go deeper with yours truly, and we can do some good stuff together for sure on the premium live streams. So check that out. And in the meantime, okay, here is what Ayatollah Khamenei said today about President Trump's overtures about negotiations and a grand Middle East peace deal involving Iran. Now, he said this during a very eventful week, folks, and we've been talking about it here on the channel throughout the week. If you miss any of our live streams, just check it out in our archives. But obviously, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been in town in Washington, D.C. And Trump said, look, maximum pressure's back. And, you know, side by side with Bibi at the press conference, he's saying this. And the goal for Trump, and it's real simple, and it's very smart. He keeps saying, look, I'm a man of peace. I want peace in the Middle East as much as we can have. And we all know watching that ultimately the only way you're going to have peace in the Middle East ultimately is when the Prince of Peace, his name is Jesus, returns and takes his throne in Jerusalem in the middle of the Middle East. But in the meantime, you can certainly have periods of peace. And that's a good thing. As long as it's not a false peace, if it's a good peace that's good for Israel, good for the free world, good for the body of Christ, this is a good thing. And that's President Trump's goal here, and that's what he has in mind. He's saying, look, I don't want to be the guy who's bringing more war. I want to try and, through leverage and peace through strength, through the strength of the United States, through my personal strong leadership, I'd like to see peace in this region that has known only war, chaos, and misery for thousands of years. A noble goal, no doubt. So he says, look, Iran, we can, whenever we want, strike, destroy your nuclear facilities. It's doable. Either us or with Israel in conjunction, we can and will do it. You cannot have the bomb. Trump said, look, it ain't happening. It's a non-starter. Iran, you cannot have the bomb. Conversation over. But how do we get you to give up your nuclear dreams, your nuclear ambitions? His thought here is maximum pressure could, if Iran is squeezed, if the regime is squeezed so badly, and Trump said, look, the goal is to cut off all Iranian oil exports. Wow. Oil exports are essentially the lifeblood of Iran's economy. You cut that off, they're in major trouble. And the regime knows if people are starving on the streets, there's a good chance they could be overthrown finally, because we've seen these outbursts and these uprisings for the past 26 years, really, since 1999, in a major way against this regime. People in the streets. 2009, you had 1 million people in the streets of Tehran protesting against this wicked regime. Barack Obama was in office at the time, and he, quote, and I'm quoting him directly, said, well, we don't want to be seen as meddling. So he couldn't even bring himself to at least give just verbal encouragement to the protesters. That was the watershed moment, June 2009, where this regime could have toppled. I truly believe that during that Green Revolution. And Obama blew it. It wasn't military support. It was just words of support and encouragement, similar to what Reagan did during the Cold War with the Soviet bloc nations, with Poland, with Lech Walesa. Encouragement, funding of opposition voices, and it just never materialized. And now we've got the situation where we are 16 years later. But Trump is saying, look, if we squeeze them hard enough, maybe they'll abandon their nuclear program. I don't believe they will. They're too invested in it, and ideologically, they have to get the bomb, even if it takes them 100 years. They're very patient. But Trump's saying, okay, if even maximum pressure, if even destroying their economy, tightening the noose economically, if even that doesn't convince them to abandon the bomb, last resort, military action. He's saying, look, we could just strike them right away, but I'm going to give this one. I just got into office, Trump's saying, not even 3 weeks ago. I'm going to give this one more chance. Let's try and give diplomacy, negotiations, one more chance. Let's see if they bite. Maybe Iran, the regime, will come to its senses and say, you know what? It's not worth it. We're abandoning these nuclear ambitions. I think you and I know that's probably very unlikely. So I think what we're staring at in 2025, perhaps not action this year, but by the end of the year, we'll know which way this is going. Perhaps military action comes 2026, 2027. But at any rate, we'll know what the outcome's going to be. Is Iran going to cave to the maximum pressure and abandon this nuclear goal or not? That is why this is the year of reckoning. And by the way, we've talked about this. Israel, the U.S. have a clear path to destroy those nuclear facilities. As I mentioned, Ring of Fire smashed, air defenses smashed, destroyed. I mean, it's carte blanche right now. If you want to strike, this is a golden opportunity, to be quite frank, if you want to take military action against Iran's nuclear facilities. And in terms of them climbing down and caving on the nuclear issue, doesn't sound like they want to do that. Here's the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei. Just today, he says, quote, that the Americans are sitting, I'm quoting him directly, they're redrawing the map of the world, but it has no basis in reality. They make statements about us, express opinions, and issue threats. If they threaten us, we will threaten them in return. Again, this Iran Supreme Leader talking about America. If they act on their threats, we will act on ours. If they violate the security of our nation, we will, without a doubt, respond in kind. And he added, and this is a key point here for our conversation today, there should be no negotiations with such a government. There you go. So it seems that he's rejecting out of hand President Trump's overtures of, look, you guys want to come to your senses, live in peace in the region? He says, look, we're trying to make peace. The Abraham Accords and Sunni Arab nations, and we're trying to make the Middle East a better place for the first time in forever. And since Iran, you are the source of all the madness, evil, and chaos, essentially, in the region, not only your own regime directly, but your funding of evil proxies in Yemen, Gaza, Iraq, Lebanon, Syria. Since you've been the cause of much of the misery, we're going to try and bring you in and see if you'll change your mind, perhaps come to your senses. The problem is a jihadi leopard does not change its spots. And I give President Trump credit for trying. And look, at least Trump can say, hey, we tried. We gave them every opportunity, and they rejected it out of hand. But I think the ultimate outcome here, folks, I think it's inevitable, is eventually military action. And no one wants to see it. But if they're not going to, if even maximum economic pressure does not cause them to abandon the nuclear program, then there's no other recourse. So in the meantime, does that mean Iran embarks on a mad dash to the bomb to try and head off military action? And look, you see the title today of the live stream, there have been persistent reports over the past few weeks since Donald Trump took office that the Iranian regime is weighing all its options, and it is trying to figure out ways to basically take a shortcut to the bomb, to basically hop, skip, and a jump. And we know they're close. We've been hearing this for 3 years at least, that they're 2 weeks away. They're a week away. If they want the bomb, if they want to break out, they're that close. They're enriching uranium to near military grade levels. They're there. But can they cut out a step? Would it be a more crude nuclear device? I don't know. But would it be enough for them to say, we're a nuclear power? We've reached nuclear status. Follow the North Korea model. There was all this talk of regime change in North Korea. Then they got the bomb. Then you didn't hear much about regime change in North Korea anymore. They've got several bombs now, probably dozens. Iran reestablishes the ultimate deterrence. The deterrence it has lost in the past few months with the smashing of the Ring of Fire, with the destruction of its air defense systems. They can either reestablish deterrence through getting the bomb themselves, doing a mad dash here and trying to break out, rushing to the bomb. I don't think they'll get there because I think Israel's intelligence is so superior inside Iran that Israel would head them off the pass and strike first before Iran could break out. But you're eventually going to, I think, turn on the TV or turn on the live stream here. It's going to be one of two scenarios. We're saying, oh my gosh, Iran's a nuclear power. They did a nuclear test. They have the bomb. Or, hey, Israeli fighter jets are in the sky and they're destroying Iran's nuclear sites. I think that's the outcome here. And Israel, perhaps in conjunction with the U.S., with those bunker-busting bombs that the U.S. has, or in the very least, with a green light from the United States. The other option here for Iran is abandoning their nuclear program, again, which I find unlikely. They've invested decades into this thing, and just cleaving closer to nation states like China and Russia, which are nuclear powers. And China, Russia, North Korea, they're the other members of what I call the Gathering Storm Coalition, along with Iran. They're not beyond supplying nuclear know-how to their Iranian friends. Iran has no choice now with its proxies smashed, but to get closer to nation states like China and Russia, in particular, nuclear-armed nation states. This is the point they're at. The proxy strategy ultimately failed. It caused a lot of damage for Israel, but Israel eventually smashed it. Where is their security? Where is their deterrence? Number one, in having your own nuclear weapons, but number two, in having strong relationships with nuclear powers that share your anti-Israel, anti-Western agenda. Fasten your seatbelts, folks. The prophetic chess pieces are moving on the board, and we'll bring it all to you continuously here on the live stream. By the way, if you like what you're hearing here, you are a Watchman fan. You see there on your screen, we've got some pretty cool merch. We've got hoodies and hats and mugs, some really cool stuff for all the Watchman fans out there. We wanted to offer that to everyone because people have been asking me for really years, hey, where's the merch, man? I'm going to rock some Watchman merch, a hoodie, a hat, something. So there you go. Be the coolest kid in your neighborhood and get some Watchman gear. You see the information there on your screen. Some really cool stuff that we've got. Just a fun thing we get to offer to you all. And we're going to keep it going here. And we've got a lot to talk about, man, oh man, in the months to come. We talked about the prophetic Gaza plan. I believe it has biblical prophetic implications. And Iran and Saudi-Israel normalization. Wow. There will be no lack of content, needless to say, in the months to come. So hang in there, fasten your seatbelts, keep it right here. Have a great weekend. If anything pops up over the weekend, we'll come to you live on the weekends too. In the meantime, God bless you. And remember, never hold your peace. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Watchman Newscast. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload, and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. And don't forget to share your thoughts, insights, and comments below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.